This episode is brought to you by DistroKid.
Josie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. So many
Hey everybody, today I am joined by producer and co-host Chris Fafalios to break down the writing, recording, and lyrical interpretation behind the Outfield's classic hit single, Your Love, taken from their 1985 debut album, Play Deep. The song was written by guitarist and backing vocalist John Spinks, along with powerhouse lead vocalist and bass guitarist Tony Lewis and drummer Alan Jackman. This band created a song that perfectly sums up the word timeless. I would dare say that Your Love is bigger now than it's ever been, having been covered by thousands of artists, including Less Than Jake, and now appearing in TikToks and Reels as we speak. Lots of really cool connecting of the dots here too, with producer William Whitman and executive producer Rick Chertoff, having worked with numerous past Chris DeMakes a Podcast guests. The only thing that would have been better than breaking down the song by ourselves would have been for John and Tony to be right here with us. Rest in peace to the both of them. And now, let's get right into this awesome episode.
Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast. Hey, have you heard? Chris DeMakes a Podcast.
Well, hey, Chris, we are doing another episode with an artist that's no longer with us. One of my favorite songwriters, John Spinks from the Outfield. And I want to start this off by asking you, because we're the better part of almost a decade apart, like something like 7.5, 8 years in age. When do you remember hearing Your Love or knowing about the Outfield?
I mean, I definitely knew the song before I knew the name of the band.
Yeah.
This is one of those songs that's just been around my entire life. I cannot recall for the life of me the first time I heard this. It's just one of those songs that has always been there. And another thing about this song, Chris, that I was thinking about is I don't know that I've ever known someone that like doesn't like this song. I feel like this is a universally beloved song. Also, I want to throw the same question back to you. Do you remember the first time you heard this? Because of our age disparity, maybe you remember this being like a new song.
I do. And what's crazy about it is my friend, Jesse Lance was his name. His older sister had the cassette. And I remember spending the night at his house, a sleepover, and remember hearing the whole cassette, the whole album. I heard the first single on Southwest Florida radio, Say It Isn't So, which had the classic opening line, "You got me all screwed up."
You got me all screwed up. So much I can't turn around.
And I remember that kind of ruffling feathers. I remember I think it was my grandma that thought that was kind of like she knew what he was saying. It wasn't just saying screwed up. He was, it alluded to something else. So I heard that they were on MTV, which was interesting because you and I have talked about this before. These guys couldn't get arrested in their home country of England, but they were, became pop sensations. But that's when I first heard about them, was on the radio, then got the cassette. Your Love is a really interesting song because it came out, recorded in 85, was released in February of 86 as the second single from the record. And when I got to college in 1991, I'd go out to college parties, nightclubs, whatever you do when you first get to college as a young person. And Your Love would be blaring in these dance clubs and be blaring at the party. You weren't necessarily hearing, other stuff from 1986, but that song had already become like this cult classic. And then, forget about it. Later on, everybody from Less Than Jake to Midtown, a Wilhelm Scream, Wyclef Jean and Eve did a reggae version, Morgan Page did an electronic dance version, and about 30 other artists, not to mention the thousands of bar bands on YouTube with their versions.
What do you think it is about this song that everybody loves? Is it that it's so fun to sing along to that the vocals are so featured, or is it that it's relatable? What's the appeal, the mass appeal of this song?
You know, people throw this word around, Chris, but I just think the song's timeless. You know, I don't think it ages in the sense of, I mean, the production, listen to it, it's full 80s. Everything from the slap echo on the vocal to the chorused guitars, the way the drums sound, everything about it. But just what an interesting band. And I've connected some pretty crazy dots with this, and I'm sure you've got some notes to go too. But John Spinks, the guitar player and backing vocalist, he wrote all of the band's songs solely by himself, sharing writing credit on 3 or 4 songs throughout his career for the Outfield with outside writers and vocalist Tony Lewis. The band released 9 albums over the course of their career. So very prolific, John Spinks. Amazing. And what else is interesting, Chris, is the people he worked with on this record and around this time period, which we'll get to in a moment. But in researching, I couldn't find anything else that John Spinks, like you would have thought being so prolific, he would have written with outside writers for other projects.
This was his thing. This was where he put his heart and soul into, and I think that's cool. Chris, something about this band, a little bit off topic here. It wasn't until studying for this episode that I realized this band was English. And I think I'm not alone in that. Yeah. This band, they're called the Outfield. So it instantly makes you think of the most American thing ever, baseball. Do you know what their name was before they were the Outfield?
I do, and it's absolutely terrible. They were called the Baseball Boys, which, again, Chris, it's baffling because baseball's just not like American pie in England. It's not the favorite pastime of the country. It's just not over there. You know, they might have some pickup leagues, but it's not like you don't start them in Little League. They have footy over there, which we call soccer. You know, they have all kinds of English type games and whatnot. Just didn't really become a thing. It wasn't until somebody from Columbia CBS Records, Chris, suggested a name change to the Outfield, which was probably the right call.
Yeah, I mean, they got Baseball Boys from, I've never seen this movie, Chris. Maybe I should watch it at this point, but they actually got it from that movie, The Warriors. Mm-hmm. You know that movie, The Warriors, about like, what is it, like gangs fighting each other?
Yeah.
There was a gang called the Baseball Furies. That's where they got the Baseball Boys.
Ah, okay, of course. Awesome. Well, Your Love is taken from their debut album, Play Deep, released on August 12th, 85. The first single, talked about this a little bit ago, album opener, Say It Isn't So, was released late 85, followed by Your Love in February of 86. The song reached number 6 on Billboard Hot 100 and number 7 on the album Rock Tracks chart in 86. Sadly, John Spinks passed away from liver cancer on July 9th, 2014. He was only 60 years old. Tony Lewis was lead vocalist and bass guitarist for the band, and sadly, he passed away from unknown causes on October 19th, 2020 at age 62. And Chris, this is one band I would have loved to have seen. And in researching, I couldn't really find any live videos. I saw like American Bandstand or something where they were lip syncing Your Love. Did you come across any live videos? I was looking for festivals. There's just not much on this band.
Yeah, no, I watched a lot of music videos to which I was like, man, I love this band. I love these songs. But no, I didn't see any live stuff on YouTube.
Did you get into any of the other songs from this band outside of Your Love?
One song I really liked, which I knew and I didn't realize I knew, this was like kind of a later one, this is like 92, was the song Winning It All. Mm-hmm. I knew this song because it was on the Mighty Ducks soundtrack. It was definitely in the movie. I also really like the song, this is from earlier, but the song Since You've Been Gone from their second album, Bangin' in 1987. Do you know that song?
I do know that song. That's an amazing song.
I might like that song better than Your Love, to be honest.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Also, I Don't Need Her and Every Time You Cry from the first record. And honorable mention to Closer to Me from 1992's album called Rock Eye. I think that is absolute power pop perfection.
Tonight we're just a little bit closer. Tonight it's just the way it's gonna be. Yeah. Tonight I'm just a little bit closer. Tonight you're just a little bit closer to me.
So good. I really think if there was ever a time to use the word underrated, it'd be this band. They were kind of faceless. Yes, they were on MTV, but I don't even know if they were ever headliners, Chris. Again, I couldn't find any live stuff. You would have thought someone shot some home videos over the years. The classic lineup of the Outfield was rounded out by drummer Alan Jackman. And apparently, Chris, there was no Josie. She was not on a vacation far away.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was pretty interesting. This is a completely made up story written on John Spinks' porch of his flat. Him and Tony Lewis sat on the porch and hashed out the song in about 20 minutes. No basis in reality. Josie's not a real person. Completely invented story. And, one thing, and we'll get into it as we get into the lyrics of this song, I never paid attention to the story of this song, really. I know that there was a Josie, of course, it's in the first line of the song, but I never really knew what this song was kind of about. And I was kind of like, whoa, I didn't realize this as I was going through this, getting prepared for this episode.
There's only one episode out of the over 200 we've done that really comes to mind. It was Chad Price. Remember when I asked him, what's this song about? He just like, I don't know, they're just words. I figured we would have got a lot more with that. Because I've written songs that are just words. I don't really know what they're about, or I just wanted to write a fictitious story. And certainly there's had to have been thousands of country songs or old rock songs that were just, fictitious. But it's just really interesting. A couple more things here before we jump into the song. I don't know how far you got in with this, Chris, but Play Deep, the album that Your Love was on, this and the follow-up Bangin' were produced by William Whitman. Do you know anything about him?
The only thing I really could find about him, because I couldn't even click into his name on the internet, but I knew that he worked with Cyndi Lauper and The Fix. What did you find out about him?
Well, I may have dug a little bit deeper. He's 71 years old now. He now plays bass for Cyndi Lauper. He was a New York guy. Played for the alternative band Too Much Joy. Do you remember them?
Not at all.
They were interesting. They started in the late 80s, early 90s. They were kind of alternative before they knew what to call it. Check it out. Roger and I absolutely love them. Roger from Less Than Jake. I hit him up yesterday in preparing for this episode and said, you're not going to believe, because Roger and I bonded over the Outfield. For those that don't know, that was our first, it wasn't a punk band. When we first met, he's like, dude, you like the Outfield? I'm like, yeah, one of the greatest records ever. And before we go any further about William Whitman, I know we've said this before, or at least I've said it to you, and I wanted to bring it up, but the Outfield to me is just it's just honest rock and roll. It's fun. It makes you feel good. And for me, I feel like the sister band for you, or brother band, however you want to say it, would be Gin Blossoms.
Okay.
In the 90s.
Yeah.
I feel like there's similarities here with the bands. It's honest rock. It's something that, kind of everyone in the family can hear, not be offended by it. It's just good music.
And timeless. You used the word timeless earlier, and I feel that way about both of those bands.
Yeah, this was another Little League baseball game, Ride to the Games cassette in Dad's car. My father loved this band, and we absolutely wore this cassette out. Back to producer William Whitman. We talked about he played for Too Much Joy, which that's still amazing me. Such a cool band. He produced, mixed, and engineered for The Fix, Scandal, Joan Osborne, The Hooters. Worked A&R for Columbia and Epic Records. New York-based, most likely arranged by Columbia to be the producer. Again, I was wondering, how did this guy get with an English band? And it was all through the record label. However, the album was recorded at AIR Studios in London. Goes to the next person. The executive producer of the record was Rick Chertoff, who co-wrote Girls Just Want to Have Fun, Time After Time.
Dude. Right.
Damn, I wish I was your lover.
Our boy Eric Bazillion. This is Eric Bazillion's friend, you know?
And that's what ultimately, when, you know, I guess I thought it was useless at some point. We've talked about this. All those liner notes I'd read in the, you know, in my albums as a kid because I was bored in the summer and it was too hot to go outside in Florida. It's all come to fruition. It's all come full circle here, Chris. And these guys, as we know, Rick Chertoff, amazing songwriter, but this whole little circle has worked on a lot of songs we featured here on the show.
Definitely. They're all Cyndi Lauper's backing band. It wasn't Eric Bazillion and Rick Chertoff both in her backing band too, and so is William Whitman. And he worked, Eric Bazillion wrote one of us, and Chertoff, what did this guy do?
Well, you know, he's credited as an executive producer, Chris. I don't know if you know what that means. I found out what that meant years ago because Craig Ahrens...
Hey, wait, don't tell me. Because I don't know exactly, but the executive producer... Does that basically mean you paid for this thing to happen? That you invested money?
No, you're behind the funds. Basically, you're making sure that the recording is executed on time and within budget. So the executive producer, you know, when you've blown through your 100,000, the producer gets on the phone and goes, "Hey, Rick, we got to talk. Could we get another 25 grand released? You know, we're right in the middle of this. We're almost finished," type thing. And he'd go back and try to commandeer more money. And that's how that whole thing worked.
Gotcha.
Craig Aronson took an executive producer and an A&R credit on our records, but he deserved it. He made sure everything went smoothly.
Nice. Yeah, this band is really interesting, Chris. I like them a lot. I did notice that on some of their other songs, maybe not on Your Love as much. Maybe some people could argue. But Tony Lewis sounds a lot like Sting a lot of times. Do you notice how much he sounds like Sting on a lot of songs?
Absolutely. And he also reminds me a little bit of Colin Hay from Men at Work on certain inflections with his voice. I don't know if you hear that or not.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. But the Sting thing was very much apparent to me that I would have thought, like I said, maybe not Your Love, but a lot of their other songs, I think people would have thought like, oh, that's The Police or that's Sting. And Chris, I wanted to really put you and the listeners like in the mind. We do this a lot on One Hit Thunder, but put you in the mind of what was going on musically in the world at the moment that this song hit its peak of number 6 on May 10th of 1986. The number 1 song at that time, Chris, a song that I literally was in the pool yesterday with my girlfriend, and this song came on, and I'm like, "You like this song?" She's like, "Yeah, I like this song. I think it's got a little bit of a resurgence lately." The number 1 song at this time was West End Girls from Pet Shop Boys.
Oh, cool.
In a western town, a dead end world, the East End boys and West End girls. Ooh, western town, a dead end world, East End boys, West End girls, West End girls.
I loved that song. I can't say I was a Pet Shop Boys fan, but what a unique, quirky, cool song. Let's try to get those guys on.
I've tried. I already tried. I already got rejected. I already got rejected on it.
All right.
Other songs, Chris, that were on the charts at this time. Number 2 was Addicted to Love from Robert Palmer. Number 3 was Greatest Love of All from Whitney Houston. Number 4, I'm sure you like this one, Why Can't This Be Love from Van Halen. And number 5 at the time, one of my favorites, What Have You Done For Me Lately from Janet Jackson. So those were the 5 songs above Your Love at this time. Stacked, absolutely stacked top 10 at this time. Janet Jackson, Van Halen, Whitney Houston, Robert Palmer, Pet Shop Boys. I mean, it's a great piece of chart history at this time.
Absolutely. And one more little aside here, Chris, before we jump into the song. You know, let's not discount John Spinks' backing vocals, and we're going to get into that in here. He was an integral part, and he had that lower voice, okay? I've always kind of equated, again, going back to Roger and I, sitting on the couch with our acoustics playing Outfield covers. I was John Spinks. I had the lower growly voice, and Roger had that high Tony Lewis voice. So the song is 3 minutes and 36 seconds. It starts out, verse 1.
Josie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. So many things that I wanna say. You know I like my girls a little bit older. I just want
Josie's on a vacation far away. Come around and talk it over. So many things that I want to say. You know, I like my girls a little bit older. How much older is he talking here, Chris?
That was one of my first notes, is that it's definitely a twist on, we talk a lot of times about like some of these older 70s and 80s songs. That Benny Mardones song always comes to mind, where it's like creepy talking about a younger woman. That this was like a breath of fresh air saying, I actually like my women older.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a nice change from what you heard in a lot of like songs that you cringe about nowadays. Also, Josie being on this vacation far away, never thought about that line before, but Josie is his current love interest or girlfriend. And in this song, he's trying to persuade another girl to come over and spend the night with him. That's what's going on here.
Interesting take.
You didn't realize that? Did you not realize that?
No, I didn't realize it. You just hit me over the head with a mallet. Good one, Chris.
I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose your love tonight.
I just want to use your love tonight. And I don't want to lose your love tonight. So use the current lady's love, but he doesn't want to lose the other lady's love that's away on vacation, Josie.
That could be the case. I didn't really look at that line.
This is made up.
Yeah, but regardless of it being made up, which, Chris, if this is a song, as I suspect, about cheating, about being a philanderer, then maybe even if it was based in some reality, he would be like, no, this is just a story I made up, you know?
Well, I've heard versions of this song, Chris, the video in particular, where they loop the guitar part in the beginning and the vocal doesn't start.
Yeah.
But I went for what was on the radio. It always started with the vocal, which we've talked about this before. Radio programmers didn't like that. They liked, and it may have... that other video version, that may have been sent to radio so they can talk over, hey, and this is new from the Outfield, while the guitar part's going and then the vocal comes in. But I went with the classic album version, which I think is the best version. Stereo guitar right off the top here, slightly overdriven with a chorus effect, very popular in the 80s. It's just a beautiful sound. And a killer sounding slap echo on the vocals. It's so good and fitting. And if you just zone in on that, I don't know if you did, Chris, when listening to this, it's almost to the point where it's too much. It's right on the cusp.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It is. Yeah, and there's some really, really good vocal layering. And besides songs that start off with the chorus here on the show that we've had many, this may be the quickest song to the chorus that doesn't start with the chorus. It's 16 seconds we're in the chorus hook here, which is a full 7 seconds faster than What's My Age Again from Blink. The lyric, I just want to use your love tonight, and I don't want to lose your love tonight. We get that first harmony on I don't want to lose your love tonight. These big harmonies pan left and right. John Spinks, his low vocal definitely in there. And at the end of this chorus, Chris, the night, the lead vocal is held out longer. And I wrote feel. And what I mean by that is, you know, we've talked about this. When you get stuff on a grid in a computer, you look at, oh, that vocal is too long. It's hanging out. And then visually it bothers you. And then you start to hear it that way. I love when things are loose like this. And somebody, be it the band, be it William Whitman, the producer, said, no, that's perfect. We're not messing with that. It doesn't need to be locked.
Such amazing choices by the band and William Whitman on this song. That, what you call slapback echo effect, it's such a bold choice. And also something I think is a bold choice is how loud, Chris, did you notice how loud the harmonies are? Like multiple lead vocals. They are not tucked back whatsoever. They are loud.
Yeah, and I kind of think that may have to do with what was going on in the 80s. You look at Mutt Lange, for instance, with his backing vocals for the Cars, for Def Leppard. I hear that here. This is like stadium rock backing vocals. It's not light pop rock backing vocals.
And Chris, everything too, the drums, you could sing the drums, air drum every fill of this song. Every fill is memorable, including this first one that kicks us into the second verse of the song, it's awesome.
It is, and that crash cymbal is, one of the identities of this song. One of the hooks when he hits that kick and those two crashes, then the drums, bass, and stereo guitars are all in. Those stereo guitars still playing that chorusy sounding effect. I ain't got many friends left to talk to. Nowhere to run when I'm in trouble. I'd do anything for you. Stay the night, but keep it undercover.
Great line. Great
Yes.
line. Once again, you said, what was it? Your grandma picked up on some Outfield lyric that was a double entendre or something?
Yeah.
Well, this is another one. Keep it undercover. Don't tell anybody about it. Also, we're going to be under the covers. Very clever.
I love verse 2 here. We get a harmony on nowhere to run when I'm in trouble. And I'm going to go back to the Less Than Jake example here. A lot of our harmonies are co-lead vocals. And that's what I hear on this part. When John comes in with that low vocal here, it's not buried. You can tell it's a different voice. And I always love that. You can really hear his lower harmony. And again, not super locked here. John hangs trouble out longer, not Tony. John hangs out on that word. And we get a harmony as well on stay the night, but keep it undercover. Absolutely love this. And I love verse 2 because it's the same as verse 1, but it's all new because the drums and the bass are in. It's not just the guitars off the top.
The song is building big time. And everything that's introduced is so intentional. It feels like nothing is ever just like a throwaway part. Everything feels so well thought out. And we'll get into that as we get into the second chorus, because I feel like there's a lot once this second chorus kicks in.
There is, and let's talk about that. You mentioned the drum parts in this song. Let's talk about the drum sound. I'm going to call these drums, they're honest. Yeah, they got some reverb on them. They're 80s in that aspect, but they're not electronic, phony sounding drums, which a lot of 80s productions, even the Van Halen song you're talking about, Alex Van Halen, Why Can't This Be Love? They changed their drum sound to kind of go with the times. It was more of an electronic sound. I love the way the drums sound in this track. I wouldn't change a thing.
Hey, everybody, don't go anywhere. We got lots more Chris DeMakes a podcast coming right up after a few words from our sponsors.
Looking to elevate your music career? DistroKid is a digital music distribution service that enables musicians to distribute their music to online stores and streaming platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, Amazon, Tidal, and many more. DistroKid collects earnings and payments, sending them to you, the artist. With DistroKid, artists unlock a world of possibilities. From easily paying collaborators with splits to securing your music with DistroLock, DistroKid covers all bases. Plus, you can promote your releases with Hyperfollow and create eye-catching visuals with the Spotify Canvas generator, all for free. But that's not all. Introducing the DistroKid app, now available on iOS and Android. Artists can manage their releases, view streaming stats, and withdraw earnings, all from the palm of their hand. And for those looking to perfect their sound, check out Mixia. With its simple interface and customizable mastering options, artists can make their music sound polished and professional within minutes. And don't forget about Instant Share, DistroKid's newest feature. Share large files securely with collaborators, producers, and more, ensuring your music streams at the highest quality. Ready to take your music to the next level? Download the DistroKid app and explore their suite of tools today. Plus, listeners can enjoy 30% off their first year by visiting distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes. That's distrokid.com/VIP/DeMakes.
Ever wonder what a punch from Elton John feels like?
Or how you'd cope with having turned down the chance to be in Nirvana?
Or what signal Keith Richards gives when he wants you to get the hell out of his hotel room?
Fans of Too Much Effing Perspective don't have to wonder, because they've heard these exact stories and a jillion others on our podcast. I'm Alex Hoffman, former tour manager for Radiohead.
And I'm musician and comedy writer Alan Keller. On the TMEP show, we get guests like Nancy Wilson from Heart, Jeremiah Freites from the Lumineers, and Modern Family's Julie Bowen to tell us things they may have only shared with their therapist, clergy, or a TMZ stringer.
So join us on Too Much Effing Perspective. That's EFFING Perspective. The only podcast you crank up to 11.
Hey there, Chris DeMakes of podcast listeners. Ready to take your podcast experience to the next level? By signing up for the supporting cast at chrisdemakes.com, you not only ensure the continued production of our show, but also unlock exclusive perks. Subscribers receive a weekly bonus episode of our other podcast, The After Party, co-hosted by Chris Fafalios and myself. Many fans rave that The After Party is just as enjoyable as the main show. And with close to 200 music-centric episodes in the archive, there's a treasure trove of entertainment awaiting you. Thank you for tuning in and for your support in keeping the podcast going strong. Join us at chrisdemakes.com and let's keep the fun conversations going.
And now back to the show.
Chorus 2 comes right off of verse 2, and you mentioned it, Chris. This is when the song, to me, really starts to build.
I just wanna use your love tonight. I don't wanna lose your love tonight.
I just want to use your love tonight, and I don't want to lose your love tonight. We get harmonies on both of those lines this time. In between it, we get a whoa that is just Tony. The drums here, Chris, are interesting. They go to the ride cymbal. They get lighter here for the chorus. It doesn't get heavier off the verse, which I never noticed that until I started breaking it down. And the stereo guitars are playing these beautiful arpeggios throughout.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, one thing I noticed too that stands out to me about when we get into the second chorus, and it happens again, is there's this big guitar chord that leads into it. It's like a big, it's kind of like a rake. I call it a rake of the chord that leads in. That really, that one chord that goes in is really like a featured, really pops out of the stereo when I listen to it.
I just wanna use your love.
And yeah, then it leads into that sparkly arpeggiated guitars that really shine throughout the chorus. And also, you mentioned that whoa in between the lines, you know? That, I think, is very important because it makes it feel a little bit improvised or live, and it differentiates it. It makes it feel a little bit spontaneous, and I love it.
I agree. And I also, you were talking about those guitars here. They're beautifully orchestrated. There's a lot of room on them, but there's a lot of separation. You can hear everything that's going on. Off of chorus 2, we get into the bridge. Such a cool part. There's not much going on here. The first 8 bars, it's just the chord changes, G to A. And it's 8 bars of drums, bass, and the stereo guitars are playing a nice arpeggiated picking pattern. And there's also a dual lead guitar that comes in. The melody is panned off left and the harmony guitar solo is panned off right. And this lead guitar part, it dips out when the vocals kick in for the second half of the bridge. But this guitar lead, very reminiscent of Boston, Kansas Journey, Iron Maiden even, that dual harmony thing, Thin Lizzy, so cool.
Trying to stop my hands from shaking. Something in my mind's not making sense. It's been a while since we were all alone. Looking at the way I'm feeling.
Is this the fastest we've ever got to a bridge in a song? How are we at the bridge already?
Right, and the bridge is only at like a minute 8 in the song, and you're already there.
Jeez.
Which is shocking because you still got 2.5 minutes left of the track. Very interesting. Where they make up for that time is chorus 3 in the outro, on that fade out at the end. We get the time there, but yeah, just so cool. The lyric for the bridge And Chris, we get harmonies on every line here. Try to stop my hands from shaking, 'cause something in my mind's not making sense. It's been a while since we were all alone. I can't hide the way I'm feeling.
Yeah, the first three lines of this, Chris, are sung softer than anything's been sung in the song so far.
Yep.
And of course, all in harmony. And then it's that last line, the I can't hide the way I'm feeling. That's the line you want to yell from the mountaintops.
It is, and there's like at least 3 vocals, which are all probably doubled there. We got Tony in the center, and Tony either left or right, and John either left or right. Can't really tell there, but yeah, that part just pops, comes to a crescendo there. And that guitar lead, what's great about it is it dips out on the second half here when the vocals come in, but that same tone comes in later in the song on the outro chorus, the last chorus. It comes back. It's not the same lead, but it comes in again. So this is kind of foreshadowing for later. And I love that it's not the same part later. It's a different hook there, which is just so good.
Lyrically in this part, there's a line that stuck out to me. It's been a while since we were all alone. That line to me insinuates that he and this woman have had some sort of past together. This isn't a longing for someone he's never been with. This is someone he has a history with. And that line also, I feel like, could make it relatable for people. That, you know, someone from your past, you're in a relationship now, but there's this person from the past that you're still longing for one way or another. And I don't know, that line stuck out to me that, oh, okay, this isn't some dream girl that, you know, you've never been with or you're fantasizing about. This is someone that is part of your life at some point.
Good take. And gotta ask here, when is the last time you recall writing a third verse for a punchline song?
Third verse.
I put you on the spot.
You put me on the spot, but I do think I'm guilty of this. Sometimes I, in the writing stage, have too much information and it would get cut. I feel like I'm always trying to tell too much of a story.
Okay.
You know? So I might be guilty of this, but I love a good third verse, and this is a great third verse.
Yeah, I would probably guess that Punchline be more apt to write a third verse than Less Than Jake. But yes, we get a third verse here, which you mentioned a minute ago about the bridge happening so early. Well, we get another verse, and then, as I said a little bit ago, we get that last chorus and outro. Verse 3.
As you're leaving, please won't you close the door and don't forget what I told you. Just 'cause you're under don't mean I'm wrong. Another shoulder to cry upon. I just wanted you.
As you're leaving, please, would you close the door? And don't forget what I told you. Just 'cause you're right, that don't mean I'm wrong. Another shoulder to cry upon. Love it.
Yeah, it's awesome. I noticed no harmonies in this verse. Mm-hmm. And also that now I would assume that this other love interest did come over and he got what he wanted. So as you're leaving, would you please close the door, showing his true colors? Don't forget what I told you. Don't tell anybody about this, right? And just because you were right about me, it doesn't mean that I'm wrong for wanting this. Another shoulder to cry upon. I mean, I feel like the third verse is the big tell in the song is like, this guy's an asshole. This narrator is an asshole who it happened, and now he's like, okay, I got what I wanted, but Josie's going to be on her way back, so keep your mouth shut and don't let the door hit you on the way out, you know?
Yeah, a pretty narcissistic tone here, you know?
Yeah.
Just because you're right doesn't mean I'm wrong.
Gaslighting. Did they call that gaslighting?
No, it wasn't called that then. It was probably called something else.
Okay.
Like you said,
Okay.
you were just an a-hole. That's all it meant.
Yeah, right.
Something else very interesting. None of the verses in this song ever get boring because none of them are the same. The first one is just guitar and vocal. Verse 2, we get the whole band in. And on verse 3, it's just those stereo guitars from the top, Chris, but they're slightly bigger than the intro guitars, okay? A little bit louder, a little bit fuller. And the drums are playing this killer 50s, 60s, like rock beat, executing the toms. It reminds me of a lot of those old rock and roll bands, how they'd have those tom parts at the end of the song. Absolutely love what's going on here. And I love how that tom part goes into chorus 3. It continues on. They didn't go back into a regular beat there. It's absolutely genius.
Yeah, the toms sound amazing on this song, and there is a big tom feel that leads into that third chorus. Before we get to that third chorus, though, Chris, I do want to talk lyrically a little bit more about this. I want to believe, just because I feel like kind of what you said in the beginning of this episode, that this just feels like, these guys are just a good rock band, timeless, whatever. In this song, do you feel like lyrically he's trying to write from the perspective of feeling like he's the good guy or in the right? Or do you think he's trying to write from the perspective of like, oh, this is what guys are like? I bring this up because I know in the last Punchline run of shows we did, we put on yacht rock for a while, and it's hilarious how many of those songs are about a guy cheating or wanting to cheat, but doing it from such a self-righteous place, like as if there's not a damn thing wrong with this. In this song, do you feel like they're showing the typical like dog type of guy here and what they're like? Or do you think they're writing from like, oh, there's not a thing wrong with me doing what I'm doing here?
Wow. I mean, I don't know. I mean, like I said just now, that line could be taken as, this is kind of bullheaded narcissistic because you're right. Just because you're right, that don't mean I'm wrong. But a lot of what you're talking about, I never really even thought about until you and I started recording.
Okay, yeah.
Honestly, I've heard this song a million times. And then when I researched it, I was like, oh, this is just a nonsensical story that someone wrote. And something else you mentioned about verse 3, and we've talked about this before, when sometimes a vocal sitting alone is more personal than having backing vocals piled on top of it. And, what is being said here definitely lends itself to that.
The times they choose to use the harmonies and stuff and the times they choose to take them away, it's just perfect songwriting. Once again, everything in this song is so intentional. This camp of guys, man, when we had Eric Bazillion on a couple times, listening to him talk about these guys that think about songwriting this way, where everything has a reason why it's in there. Nothing is just like, we just need a guitar there, whatever. Like everything is so well thought out.
Yeah.
This is another prime example of just great songwriting.
Well, and you talked about that, was it in chorus 1, that whoa?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually in chorus 2, in between the two lyrics. There's a whoa that Tony lets out. I feel like the whole end of this song has that kind of loose feeling of ad-libbing, which goes back to prior to Pro Tools. You would do 5, 6, 7, 8 vocal takes. Sometimes you'd go back and punch in. Well, now when you went back to the hotel or wherever you were staying at, the producer's there, combing through stuff, and he's going, ooh, that's cool. Let's put that in there. He'd be cutting tape, and you would come in and be like, and who knows as well, they could have been playing this song out in the nightclubs. And a lot of this, what sounds like it was ad-libbed, may have been how they were singing it when they were out there playing. Again, no video exists from that time period. I mentioned chorus 3, those drums from verse 3 continue in.
I just want to use your love tonight. Yeah, I don't want to lose your love tonight. Yeah, I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose your love tonight. I just want to use your love tonight. I don't want to lose your love tonight.
Leading into that second part of this chorus, that huge, what I would call a galloping drum fill that
Yes.
leads into that that just picks everything up. It picks the energy up. And then once again, Chris, we get one of those huge rakes of a chord to lead into this. Between that galloping drum fill and that huge rake of a chord, it turns the lights on in the song, you know? It just picks up the energy tenfold.
It does. And in looking back, and I'm not saying this as it's a bad thing at all. It's an awesome thing. This song is pretty sparse. It's not, over bloated 80s pop. There's a lot going on here, but it's not super crazy. It's just, to your point, every part is there for a reason. They all interweave together and they work flawlessly.
Yeah, and when it picks up in that chorus too, when it finally picks up, that arpeggiated guitar, I call a sparkling arpeggiated guitar that's going through there.
Yes.
It's louder than it has been in the whole song. At this point, I listened to it. I A-B'd it with the earlier ones. It's not twice as loud, but it almost feels twice as loud. It is featured here.
Absolutely, yeah. And same thing with verse 3. Those stereo guitars from the top of the song in verse 3, they got louder. So the whole song is building. What I'm calling the outro, Chris, is when Tony says, tonight, and then we get Lose Your Love. That new guitar lead continues to weave in and out here on this outro. Chris, the $60 million question. Why is this song still going? It's now on TikTok videos. It's bigger than ever. It's an amazing song. I love it. I have nostalgia attached to it. My father loved it. Driving around as a kid listening to it. My friend's older sister let me listen to the cassette and wearing that thing out, etc., etc. Less Than Jake covered it. Roger and I bonded over it. What do you think it is besides all that for me?
I would maybe say that it's that first verse when it first starts is fun to sing along to and everybody knows the words. And when it comes on, I feel like people get excited to sing this song when it comes on. Do you think that could be it? That it's just right off the bat, we start with vocals and it's high up there and everyone wants to sing along?
Not that anybody didn't like Why Can't This Be Love or Everybody Wants to Rule the World or any of the songs that we talked about that were popular in 86. It wasn't that people didn't like those songs in 91, but a lot had changed since then. When I went to college, man, and you weren't hearing those songs out at the dance clubs, out at the college hangouts, at the parties. But you were hearing Your Love. It already transcended. It had already become this thing. And there's certain songs in time that do that. Bohemian Rhapsody. We know that had a resurgence with Wayne's World and what happened with that song. And
fun to sing along to, that one.
Yeah, fun to sing along to. And just so cool. John Spinks was an amazing songwriter, not a household name. I would argue that the Outfield is not even really a household name. You'd probably ask a 16-year-old if they heard this song, they'd say yes. They could not tell you who did the song.
I would say that probably more than 50% of the people in the world who know this song do not know who performed it.
Yeah, crazy. Well, Chris, this was a lot of fun as usual. we would have loved for John Spinks to be here talking about this song. And had he still been alive, I think we could have got John. I think, judging by what I saw, I think he was just the kind of like Eric Bazillion, just loved writing songs, so prolific. And yeah, if you want to support Chris and I doing what we love and what we hope you love, you can head over to chrisdemakes.com for episodes of the After Party. Chris, tell them what they get.
We have at this point, when you're listening to this, 200 episodes in the back catalog. If you like listening to Chris and I talk about music like we like to do, not just music, all kind of stuff, but there's a giant archive of past episodes, plus a new episode of the After Party every Monday at chrisdemakes.com for a few bucks a month. You allow us to continue making Chris DeMakes a podcast, and you get a bonus episode every week. You can't beat that. And we're really thankful to everyone who's already a member. That really means a lot to us. It seriously, literally allows us to continue making this show because it takes a lot of time and effort and got to pay those bills, So your support means a lot to us. ChrisDeMakes.com.
ChrisDeMakes.com. Thanks to each and every one of you. And Chris, let's keep those 5-star reviews on Apple and Spotify happening. And read us one. What do we got this week?
Yeah, I'm going to get one from Apple Podcasts here. Yeah, if you can leave us a review, it really means a lot because it helps other people find the podcast. And, we're just trying to work our way up the ladder of the bigger and bigger guests because you guys request a lot of big guests. We want to get them, and the more people that know about our podcast increases our chances of that. Here's a review we got from someone named Kaiser DBC, who said that this is their favorite podcast, gave us 5 stars, and said, I look forward to this podcast every week, and so will you. Chris and Chris effortlessly educate and entertain their audience each episode. Don't believe me? Listen to the Mark McGrath episode. You'll learn about the great David Kahn, pegging, and the importance of Don't Bore Us, Get to the Chorus, a podcast every music fan should subscribe to. Thanks, Kaiser. Hey, Chris, it's also interesting about that? We didn't mention in this episode that David Kahn, the Outfield recorded, I think, their 3rd album with David Kahn. Just
They
to
did.
tie it all together.
They did. Voices of Babylon. Honorable mention to My Paradise from that record. Great song. I highly suggest everyone to go and check out the Outfield's back catalog. A lot of great songs. Thanks to Kaiser for that review. And much thanks to Tony Lewis and John Spinks for writing and recording these amazing songs. Rest in peace. We'll see you next week.
One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods. One Hit Thunder is a podcast where we both celebrate and have a good laugh about bands and artists that had just one hit that we all know. Each week, we're joined by a guest from the world of music or comedy to learn more than you ever thought you would about some songs that you can't forget. And we decide if they brought the One Hit Thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. Look, if you listen to the show, you're probably going to laugh, and I guarantee you're going to crush next time the bar has music trivia. Tag Team, Jane Child, Meredith Brooks, Looking Glass, Sean Mullins, Eiffel 65, EMF, Crash Test Dummies, Crazy Town, Chumbawamba. We have hundreds of episodes in our back catalog and a new episode each week, so pass the Dutchie, make sure you're connected, and subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your pods.
Hey, what's up? My name's Lurk, and I'm the host of Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast. Every week, I have in-depth conversations with bands from all over the scene, big and small. We also like to keep our finger on the pulse and showcase up-and-coming bands on the show as well. So come check out Lamb Goat's Van Flip podcast.